In today's video, we're talking about two script miners that mine Doge and Litecoin at the exact same time, but you can also find them right now on the used market for reasonable prices. What is going on, miners, and welcome back to the Hobbyist Miner channel. Well, today we're looking at two Doge and Litecoin miners, which are actually script miners. They mine both of those coins at the exact same time, which is awesome and makes it so much more attractive right now during the bear market. It's funny, during this bear market, we're kind of pivoting towards Doge and Litecoin and script miners. It's pretty nutty right now. But let's take a look at my two units that I do have in, the L3 Plus and the X5. All right, so here we have them. So on the left-hand side here, we have the Bitmain Antminer L3 Plus. And on the right-hand side, we have our Goldshell X5. So these units, while they look super similar, do have some differences here and there. So on the left-hand side with our L3 Plus, you can see it's a mid-size ASIC. You kind of have your inline fan in the front, only one, about 6,000 RPM fan. You have your power supply, left or right, doesn't matter. I just have it lined up on the left with the way that the cables are here. It is a separate power supply on both of these. The power supplies are not included where you see with some of your newer S19 series and such. The power supplies are actually like bolted on directly to the unit. So up top here is where you have some of your interfaces. This one has an IP port as well as an Ethernet port, some LED lights, and a reset button. Now inside of this little enclosure up here is actually your control board. That's more like the brains of the entire operation, and that's slid directly in here. You can actually take out your control board by pulling back on these lever prongs on the left and right side. Now on the back side, you can see it follows around. We do have another exhaust fan, another 6,000 RPM fan on the back side. But on our control board here, we have a few ribbon cables that are coming off. 1, 2, 3, 4 different cables. Each of them actually goes to its own dedicated hash board. That's actually the workhorse that does all of the work for you. So if you're coming from a computer background, think of your control board as something like your motherboard, and then think of your hash boards as the performance and that it has the horsepower behind them on the back side here. Now we power the control board with one PCI cable. This setup has an extra one here that I've just gone ahead and zip tied. And other than that, that's really it. We provide the unit power from our power supply. You can use a variety of different power supplies. This one is the Bitmain APW3++. Does really well, very efficient, and it's not super loud, which is awesome. So from there, if you take a look from our cables, we go back to our hash boards, and this is where all this power is needed. So we have two 6-pin PCI cables, 2 for this hash board, 2, 2, 2. So you have a total of 2, 4, 6, 8 total PCI cables just to power the individual hash boards. So that is our Bitmain Antminer L3 Plus. Not a lot to it. It's very simple, very easy. These units are originally a little intimidating, but once you start to use them, man, they are so basic. Now there are a few different submodels of the L3. There's like the L3 Plus, the L3 Plus Plus, and then even within those, there's a few different submodels when it comes down to your hash rate. That's really the biggest difference. On our right-hand side, we have our Goldshell X5. Now, take a step back. Give you guys a heads up, I did get this one off of eBay, and it came with the power supply, and they swapped these out without me even asking. Like, that was how they sent it. Brand new fans. That is awesome. So on the right hand side, our Goldshell X5, it is another mid-size ASIC. This I did get from coastalcryptomining.com. I'll put a link down below if you want to check it out. I'd link you this L3, but unfortunately they're not available on eBay. They go super quick. So on this unit here, they did go ahead from Coastal Crypto. They swap out the fans with new fans, which is awesome. Thank you guys. 6,000 RPM fans as well. These little brackets you see here, You're like, what is that? I actually put these on it. It just helps to organize those cables a little bit more. So on this unit, very similar to this unit over here, the way it's laid out, this one has the SD card slot on the front, which is really, really nice. So you don't need to remove the control board if you want to put any aftermarket or third-party firmware on it. In addition, we have our IP report button, and we have our Ethernet port, as well as our indicator lights. Now, this is designed very similar. It's a different control board though, but take a look. It's very similar. This control board, very similar to this one over here. This control board has your one PCI cable for power. It has your two fan connectors to provide power to our fans and to regulate the fans. And then it has these white ribbon cables from there. And they're just blue versus this orange pink color. They travel to the back, and take a look. Our 4 ribbon cables, as well as our 2, 4, 6, 8 total PCI cables, and another high RPM fan in the back here, which is nice. So this one here comes with Goldshell's power supply, is well loved here, an 1800 watt power supply. It actually is just as efficient. We did a test. If you guys have not seen the test that I did do a test with the different power supplies on my L3 Plus, and both of these power supplies pretty much performed exactly the same, and they had very similar noise levels. So even though this one looks way more beat up and in worse condition, it still performed really well, which says a lot about the Goldshell units. So now that we have both of these units here, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and get both of them plugged in, and we're going to get them powered up and accessed, and then we're going to discuss the hash rate and the watt usage, wow, we can talk today, of each one. So we're going to start out with number 1 here on the left, which is our Bitmain Antminer L3++, and then we'll move to our Goldshell. Now, a quick PSA, these units are not apples to apples. They are not at the same hash rate, they're not at the same watt usage, but they're both mid-level script miners that mine that Litecoin and Dogecoin. They're both used in refurbished units, and they're easily available within the market right now on third-party websites like Coastal Crypto Mining or eBay or Facebook Marketplace. So that's why today I wanted to cover both of these and just provide some additional information to you guys if this is something that you're interested in getting your hands on these units as a home crypto miner. All right, let's get the first one plugged in. All right, our ASIC is plugged in our miner room, and we are ready to take a look at our L3 Plus. So as I talked about before, there's actually 4 different models of the L3. You have the 504, 600, 580, and 596 mega hash versions. So the unit that I personally have here is the 580 version. So we can go ahead and take a look at that here. Now, disregard a little bit of the profitability, but don't completely forget it, because we're not going to run this unit at the stock settings. So as you guys can see, it's 580 mega hash at 942 watts, which is a boatload. And that's in no way, shape, or form. I mean, if I scroll down, let's take a look here. This is at 15-cent kilowatt hour charge for our electric. So if you take a look there, you know, your income per day is $1.64, but the electricity cost, if you were to run this, is pretty expensive at $3.39 per day. So this is not a unit that you would want to run stock at all. But the nice thing is there is a saving grace, and we'll talk about that in a quick minute. So if we take a look over here at 𝐓𝐲, I have my L3 Plus on 𝐓𝐲, and that has been a huge blessing, not only for monitoring and management, but also for their overclock and undervolt settings, which have been huge. And I'll show that to you guys in just a second. So with the 𝐓𝐲 firmware on here, you have a lot more that you can do with this unit. But what I wanted to show you was within the software here, you can see we're at 500 right now, 502 to 508 for our hash rate within this software, and we're currently mining to pool in that you guys can see. Now, if I go over to miner config, there's a lot more opportunity within this unit. So you can come down here and you can disable the fans if you're going to use different fans or immersion. You can go ahead and set some customizations in there for fan speeds. There's just a boatload. I mean, you can see through here, the 𝐓𝐲 firmware has been a huge blessing for managing my L3 Plus from home. Now with that, if you go over to 𝐓𝐲's website, you have options, which is nice. So they actually have a variety of different firmware out there for all different ASICs. And you know, the S19J Pro, there's a bunch of other, but here is the L3 Plus. And so you can see that like you're taking it from, what do we say, 942, and I have mine on the 504 mega hash at only 660 watts. So we're losing out on, what is that? It is what, 96 mega hash, but look at our hash rate, or look at our watts that we've kind of saved on. That's like 300 plus watts, which is huge. So that's the nice thing about the HiveOS software, is that you do have the ability to get a more efficient miner, which is what we're all looking for. Now, I haven't played with it yet, but there's another aftermarket third-party firmware out there called Brains OS, and this is becoming more and more popular. I'm seeing a lot more people in my comments talking about this firmware, and so I'd like to try it in the future on some of my ASICs. I don't know if it fully supports the L3 as of right now, but it's something I'm considering looking at because I think there's been a lot, people have had some really good luck out there, but I think this is a little bit more nitty gritty. But I really like HiveOS as a GPU miner because I live and breathe in there. I have the alert set up in there. So that is a really nice thing about that. So if I go over within the HiveOS software, you guys can see right now that if I go ahead and load this up under overclock profiles, you have 504 mega hash at 660 watts. So it's just a quick drop down and off you go. So taking a look at my unit here under miner stats, we're at 507, 503, 507. And this unit, if you look at the wall, is like what, 670, 675 watts at the wall, which is pretty sweet and has worked out really, really nicely. So I've been super happy with this unit. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more at the end of the video on pricing and the aftermarket pricing that's out there for these units and where you can find some of them. But this unit is great as a spec miner for mining Doge and Litecoin, and I've been super happy with it, and I've had it for 2 months now. So anyways, this is the L3 Plus, but let's take a look at the Goldshell X5. All right, so now let's talk about the Goldshell X5, and you might be able to hear that thing in the background. It's screaming right now. So this unit is a little bit different than the L3. Its scalability is significantly more. You know, this is a newer unit, not brand new, but a newer unit when it comes down to the tech side. So as you guys can see here, the X5, you actually have 3 different modes on it, which kind of allow you to kind of adjust that power usage or your efficiency and such. So stock normal hash rate is 850, significantly more than my L3 Plus, which was 580. In addition to that though, look at those watts. Normal 1,450 watts. It's no joke. It uses a lot of watts. I mean, that's almost half of what my S19J Pro uses, the full size Bitcoin miner. But the nice thing is about this unit is the 3 different modes. So as you can see here, you have 850, 1450, you have 720, 990, or 600 and 660. Do you remember our L3? Our L3 was 504 at 660. So the bottom mode of the X5, I don't call it the bottom mode, but the low power mode performs better and has a better efficiency than the L3. So keep that in mind as we go through this. So over on Goldshell's site, you can see there's 3 different modes here that it kind of outlines. A little bit easier of a picture there. But the nice thing is like right now during a bear market, when we're looking for more efficient options, the X5 is definitely something to look at and consider. Now, it has scalability, which is really nice. So if we weren't in the bear market and the tides turned, you could then ramp this up hardcore all the way up to your 850. So you kind of have some flexibility here, especially as more and more miners come onto the network and you need more hash power. You know, this is kind of nice, which is something to keep in mind. So I have my unit over here. This is the Goldshell. It's kind of the traditional UI for it. I've had it up for just a few minutes, 4 to 5 minutes here. I do have the miner up and running. Now, this is where within the software you find that power plan, hash rate mode, which is your high one, which was at 850, your step down into your balance mode, and then what I have it on, which is the low power mode, which is really, really nice right now. I mean, I'm not running this thing at 1,450 watts, I'll tell you that much. So in addition to that, unfortunately, I haven't been able to find any third-party aftermarket software out there when it comes to the ASIC in order to add additional firmware to it, as well as a management console, kind of like Hive OS. In addition, I haven't found anything on the Brains OS, but I feel like I've seen some comments from people. Leave a comment down below that they've run the X5 on it. So let me know. Maybe I'm missing something. I could be. I'm no expert. I'll be honest with you in that regard. Now, you do have some options if you're interested in tweaking your Goldshell. In another video that I did, you actually have the ability to unlock the Goldshell unit if you're interested. So let me show you how to do that so you can kind of play around with some of the settings. So if you have your miner on the full, I call it the full bore, the 100% mode, the hash rate mode, you can come in here and you can click on the word miner. It's like this weird little backdoor dealio. You can click on it 10 times really fast. And you see how power plan now changes. It's not just a drop-down menu. You now can adjust these variables in here. So we do have some options, and I'm looking forward to in a future video, kind of playing with these and overclocking it, hoping not to mess anything up. But we do have some options to critique like RPMs of our fans and our megahertz, as well as our voltage and stuff like that. So we do have some options within here if we're interested. Okay, so at our low power mode, we're about 588, 600, right around there for our hash rate. And then at the wall, we're just over 700 watts at the wall. It said, the software says if you look like 660, but you got to really look at the wall, not necessarily from the software. Software is kind of nice as a guide, but you really want to look at the wall. So in reality, 600 at about 700 watts, still really, really good. All right, so let's look at price and like my recommendation. So Coastal Crypto Mining, which is where I got the X5, has both the X5 and the L3. So that's why we're going to use them as our example today. So if we take a look at the L3 first, that's what we were talking about, right? You can get them used on here for $250 without a power supply, it looks like. So you could find yourself like a Bitmain Antminer APW, maybe like a 3++ is what I have. I'll see if I can find them online and what the pricing is. I'll put a link down below if you guys are interested to this unit here directly for Coastal Crypto, and then also to a power supply possibly. And so you're spending like what, $250? Let's add like, I don't know, $100 for a power supply. So let's say $350 you're spending for an L3 Plus. And you're getting, let's look at right now, bear market. That's all we can talk about. You're getting 504 mega hash at 675-ish watts or so, okay? So that's kind of what your low power mode looks like. You're scaling up. You can really scale up to 580 back to the stock, but the watts are through the roof during maybe the next bull run with this unit. So you do have some options, but your latitude this is it. Like you're capped off at that 580. So when you're trying to think like you want to buy a unit for the next 3 years, that's where at least where my head goes. Like if I can get 3 years out of it, we're good. I don't know how well the L3 is going to do in 2 years or 18 months or 3 years, because I mean, look at everything coming out. Like the L7's out right now and that thing's a beast. So it's just making the difficulty on the network significantly harder. Now, if we go over and look at the X5, this is actually where my recommendation is. The price tag is significantly more. Now, these units are both used, like refurbished and such, looks like from the team over at Coastal Crypto. But the nice thing is like this can get away at that same level as the L3, right? You're like 600 and 660, 700 when it comes down to your watts. Okay, so it competes with the L3, they're on par, right? But the nice thing is like over the next 3 years, if all of a sudden we get what we're hoping for and the bull market returns and we're much more profitable than where we are now, I could tune this up to 850 and get this unit cranking, which would be awesome. I've also heard, a little birdie told me, Hive OS is going to start to have firmware next year in 2023 for the Goldshells. So we might have a lot more opportunity for not only overclocking, but also for the opportunity for getting more hash rate out of it. All right, so the Bitmain Antminer L3 or the Goldshell X5. I don't think either of them is a bad option to go with. I think it's really going to come down to your financial situation right now. Personally, if I was spending my money, I would look at, okay, the L3, if all I can afford is like something within that space, so that 250, 350 mark, great, good option to go with. Good space heater right now, but also giving you the opportunity to stack some coin. You can look at a few different pools that pay out in only Dogecoin or only Litecoin or both if you're interested. On the flip side, with the Goldshell X5, I think that it helps to future-proof you a little bit at $1,300. It is a hard pill to swallow to spend $1,300 now, but then only really utilize the 660 mega hash at just over 700 watts. That one's a little bit harder to swallow in that regard. But the nice thing is, if we start to step into a better economy and market, then you can get that thing going full tilt and you're a little bit happier in that regard. So something to think about. I'd love to hear from you guys. Leave a comment down below. Which one would you prefer, or which one do you own right now? And has this given you some kind of food for thought into, you know, if you're in the market for an L3 and now you're thinking about an X5, both are great options. I would recommend both. Guys, I have a channel on my Discord dedicated to ASICs entirely. Feel free to join the Discord and join the conversation in the ASIC channel. I am in there every day. Well, guys, that's going to wrap things up for today's video. This was a lot of fun comparing the L3 and the X5. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. Finally, don't forget to subscribe and look directly down below in the description as well as the pinned comments. I have links to everything that we talked about today. Take care.